Hello, and welcome to the Sovereign Collective podcast, where we bring you real, raw truth for your self-empowerment. I'm your host, Sasha Calavoda, and I believe that you can stand on your own 2 feet, but that you don't have to do it alone. I love learning from people who continually strive to raise the bar, to go against mainstream thinking, and who dare to question the general consensus. People who risk being ridiculed or even risk the loss of their professional status as they bravely question the common narratives and challenge the rest of us to expand our minds and to reconsider what we think we already know. Join me in learning how to take control of your health and your mind so that you can have the energy to think more clearly and the confidence to step up and take responsibility for all aspects of your life. We promise to never censor here because I believe you are strong enough to hear the real, raw truth to make up your own mind. If you like what you find here at the Sovereign Collective podcast, then please share with your friends and family. I so appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. And now, on to the show. Hey guys, Sacha here for another interview for the Sovereign Collective podcast, and I am so stoked. I have been waiting to do this kind of a topic on this podcast for an extremely long time, and now I'm melding 2 things together that really go hand in hand together. So I'm really excited to bring this information to you today. Before I talk about that, quickly, I'm going to remind you, go to my podcast page, sovereigncollective.org. I never tell people to do this. Go look at the store. Go look at the things you can get for a good deal. Like we've got discounts on Justin Franson's EMF Rocks. I've got discounts on amazing dental care and facial care from Living Libations. I've got homeopathic courses on there, medicinal mushrooms, tonic herbs, discount on there, like so good things. So go check it out. And now on to today. So today I am with Kelly Kennedy of the True Wellness Center and of the Flow podcast. And we are going to get into the topic of lymph, which I have been very obsessed with for a long time and talk about it all the time. And I find not enough people are talking about it, but then bringing in the fascia piece and really discovering how important that is last year. And for me, always looking to move my lymph, I'm like, well, duh, this makes so much sense because my fascia's stuck. How can you flow if your fascia's like, you should see me, Kelly. It's so funny. I'll be in, my husband will come in before I go into the shower. I'm like there with like these wild eyes as I'm like skin rolling and try to release all my, and I've got bruises on my legs right now. And he's like, oh, you're so much stronger than me. And I get him to work on it, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But I am obsessed with that because this is fundamental. When it comes to nutrition and supplementation, for me, I have 3 areas of major interest right now. It's lymph, fascia, and humic and fulvic complexes. Those are my obsessions at the moment because they're basic. We're going to basic principles. We're going to fundamentals that have such far-reaching effects in your mind and in your body and the circumstances of your life. And this is such a cool thing because through this work, even me just on my manual stuff, you gain a different relationship with your body. Right? You get more intimate and understand areas of your body because it's like, holy crap, I can't grab that. Well, no wonder that hurts. And it just makes so much sense. So thank you, Kelly, for being here today. I am so excited to share this interview with my audience. And let's just quickly talk about your quick background and then you can tell your story because you have a story. You have a crazy story. So Kelly is a Cornell grad with a degree in biology. She studied vibrational, energetic, and bioregulatory medicine all over Europe and America since 1998. She's also a massage therapist, a body worker. She hosts the Flow podcast, which used to be called The Beats. And then she will now tell her story, please, because Kelly, as you can tell, I'm really excited to have you. And this is one thing I am also attracted to you about. One more thing, and then I'll shut up, is that you're so excited about this and you talk really fast. And I do the same thing. I get excited. I talk really fast. And I was watching one of your talks at one of the conferences you did not too long ago. And I cried, I don't know how many times, because it's just, I'm going to start now. See, this is stupid. We haven't even started. But anyways, Kelly, over to you. Thank you.
Oh, wow. That was so beautiful and so warm. And I loved it so much and love you already. And I'm so grateful to be here and to really spread the message of flow, fascia, lymph, oxygen, water, and energy, because I, like you, agree that the foundation is often missed. And it's really what my mission has been. I've started this journey so long ago, 50 years ago. I'm 50. So I started 50 years ago. in utero for longer than 9 months. And really, that's all of our stories, right? And our story is, how do we make sense of this world, of this life, remembering, which is part of the journey, that we are not just this physical being, that we are this dynamic, divine being of energy, which flows, that is the only thing that heals. And my journey did not start knowing that. I can guarantee you that. I was upstate New York cowgirl, believed in what she saw and what she could touch, and was raised in a very religious household and didn't have a lot of faith because I couldn't see it and touch it. And my father was very, very ill. He had Hodgkin's disease. He had cancer many times, many other complications, kidney stones, blood clots, blah, 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 blah. By the time he was 55, the same year, I was in a horrible car accident about 9 months before. He started to have strokes. He had 2 strokes and then succumbed to some complications of the stroke at 55. And I was 20 at Cornell on 6 medications, managing asthma, acne, allergies, and then pain. So it was funny because I was just at my family that I come from this previous couple days, and for a holiday, my mother pulled out these old photo albums, and I opened them up and I looked at them and I go, oh my God, my heart started palpitating. I said, Ian, look at all the asthma and the allergies. And I looked at my niece and I go, see, sweetie, that's why I want you to come to the center. And, it's like, my one other niece, she was like, well, why do you think, her sister has this pattern when she runs? She's a professional, semi-professional athlete. And I'm like, well, because that's our family pattern. Look at mom, look at my son, look at you, look at because there's epigenetic patterning that's more than just, oh, I think a certain way, but I walk a certain way and I hold my pattern of my burden a certain way. And that burden is life. I'm going to say it again. That burden is life. Can't get out without a burden. You can't get in life without a scar. But when we don't address what those scars and those burdens are here to allow us to see and allow us to feel and allow us to experience all of life, then we're missing the point of life, because life isn't just to be like, I say all the time, life is heaven on earth. This journey began because I was very inquisitive, very curious. I didn't want to be sick my whole life. I didn't know how to not be sick. I figured if I become a doctor, I could figure out how to not be sick. And that's not really what happened. I was in a horrible car accident and I suffered a 12-inch scar on my head. I lacerated my spleen and I lost 2.5 inches in height. And that was the year my father died. And I was pre-med at Cornell and really questioning my entire life, my physical life, my spiritual life, my emotional life. My mental life was definitely on the edge. And I lived on painkillers and muscle relaxers like so many of us on this journey. And I went to every specialist, I did the things. And this is the 90s, so we didn't have as many things then. But I saw the orthopedic specialist, the neurologist, and the Reiki specialist, and the hypnotist, and I still lived in pain. And it wasn't until I found this guy that did vibrational emotional release technique, and he changed my whole life in one visit, and I didn't understand it. And when I came back to the office and said, what'd you do? And he said, energy. And, I was raised in upstate New York on in restaurants. And so I have a truck driver mouth. And I said, what the heck what the blank are you talking about? And he said,
say it. It's fine.
I said, what the fuck are you talking about? And he goes, cool, huh? And I was like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? He's like, so like energy, cool, huh? I'm like, what? And then I go, well, how do I maintain, how do I make sure that the pain doesn't come back? And he was like, just be. What? So then I started to see him 3 times a week to handle my allergies and my acne and my asthma and all that. 3 months later was away, traveled to lived in Texas. This was in Philly, and then lived in Texas for about a year. And he ended up in that office, and fast forward 26 years, he's now my husband. We run a practice for 19 years. And I just kept being curious about what the heck he was talking about. I had a felt experience. I understood because I experienced this thing called energy. And I continued to search and seek and find what he was talking about. Because in all honesty, recently I said, I don't really have a lot of fears in my life. I had two big fears. One, getting pregnant after I didn't want to get pregnant, and falling on ice. So because after the car accident with the compression fractures living in Ithaca, New York, ice was a big part of my life, and it represented a lot of potential pain again, and feeling a lot of uncomfortableness in the physical body, and having to overcome the mentality of what pain represents, and having to deal with the emotional components that pain represents, and just really avoiding pain pretty much. And surgery. I mean, they were like, oh, you're going to have the herringbone surgery. You're going to have to put the two rods down your back eventually. I was 20 being told this, and I was like, just go to support groups. Here's some more painkillers and muscle relaxers. And I just kept seeking until I found this guy who then did energy work. And I was like, what is happening? Painkillers, muscle relaxers. And he's like, breathe, cry, respond, express, feel, release the tension. I'm like, what is happening? And I felt so different. And I couldn't deny it. That being said, it took me about 10, 15 years until I started to see the science behind it, understand how to quantitatively test this energy through heart rate variability, through contact regulation thermography, through live blood analysis, and looking at live blood, not only live blood, but blood work. It can tell us how the outcome is going, but it doesn't tell us what the subtle body energies are doing. The subtle energy bodies are much more of who we are than what we see, feel, and touch. And that was the bridge that I have been surfing for 26 years, is what is the difference between this physical body and this divine body, and how are we doing as sovereign beings living in this physical body, and how can we be more free? Because I'll tell you what, Sasha, when I grew up, I knew I lived in a free country. My parents they loved us. There was no doubt about it. We were very loved. I did not feel free because I always felt like there was a gun going to go off, and I never knew who was going to shoot it, who it was going to shoot. And I don't mean a physical gun. I mean a health gun. All of a sudden everything was going along. All of a sudden Dad was sick. And now Dad had to go through chemo and radiation. And now, we might lose Dad. And then it was like, okay, we get through that. And then it was like, okay, bracing yourself for when the next time that was going to happen. And it happened from the time I was 7, when I was first became aware of this. He had been sick for already 9 years. But I wasn't clued in until I was 7, when he was given 3 months to live. Now, he didn't die until 13 years later. But in those 13 years, he was diagnosed another 5 or 6 times with different types of cancers. Wow. Plus, he had blood clots and kidney stones. And so, to feel like you're bracing yourself all the time for what's going to happen next. When's the other shoe going to drop? When's Dad going to go? When's the support going to go? And, we didn't have a lot. Most of our money went into keeping us going, right? There was no extra money in our household or anything like that. We didn't have big vacations. Dad didn't have a lot of vacation time. He was sick a lot. When he died and I was living in pain, I now was felt like I was in a race. How can I not live like he lived? I mean, my father was an amazing man, and everybody loved him, and he was never know that you're going to live tomorrow, so live every day as though it's your last. And he was very bright and bright-eyed and very much looking forward. But we never knew if he was going to. And then unconsciously, I realized this recently, I've been living a race for 20 years until I broke in my elbow 3 weeks before my 50th birthday. Yeah. And I have been avoiding surgery. I've broken a couple other bones playing sports throughout the years. I'm good at breaking bones, I guess. Up until this point, I'm not doing that anymore. And when I broke my elbow falling on ice, I mean, come on. Ouch. God's good. I mean, you got to laugh at that shit. I was supposed to not even be in Pennsylvania. I was supposed to fly to Florida that day for my birthday weekend, and we got snowed in. So it was supposed to happen. I'm glad it happened. And it showed me again, how all the mechanisms, all the things that I've learned throughout the years, how I can put them into action, even for my own body, but I do have a different relationship with pain now than I have ever had. And I have had a different relationship with the body because when I became free of the pain that I lived in 3 years after that car accident, when I met Ian, when I started to understand energy, I then wanted to just free every other human being that I saw what a cage they lived in, that they did not understand the body that they have. They don't understand the wonder and mysteries that create healing inside the body, that I wanted to help not only myself understand it, but I wanted to help everybody else understand it so they could really be free. And when COVID hit, I knew what was happening. Within 2 weeks, I said, oh, now everybody's going to look outside of them and think that there's something outside of them.
Right. Right.
And I haven't done my job. And that's why I started the podcast, originally called Beats, now called Flow, and really to teach what we do. And I didn't really know people would ask me what I do all the time. I'm like, I don't know. I send people to the dentist, clean them up before and afterward, deal with all their emotional shit and handle it in the body, like where it's stuck, and help their drainage. I mean, we did what everybody else didn't do because everybody else was doing the things, but nobody was getting the body into the state of present, into the parasympathetic, allowing the drainage to occur, allowing the parasympathetic to be in dominant force, allowing that fascia to finally relax, because the sympathetic nervous system fibers, the parasympathetic and are in the fascia. They are the autonomic nervous system fibers. The fascia is the frequency fabric of the body. And people don't know what fascia is. I know we're going to get there. People don't know what lymph is. And I started to see, wow, we got to teach them how this body works. And then we got to teach them how the universe works, because it's the same. It's a microcosm and the macrocosm. And if we can start to teach them how to be free from the burden of the physical body.
Yes.
Then we can translate that. How can they be free mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? Because the only sovereignty that there really is no matter what is happening around you, to know that you are free, that you are free. It doesn't matter what country you live in. It doesn't matter if you do not know how your body works, you're never going to be free. Because right now, if you don't understand how the universe works and spirituality and math, which is all the same thing, you'll never be free. Because once they let you think that you're free with healthcare, they will control you with spirituality. And I'm here as Kelly Kennedy to say, let go of the chains. There is no freedom and sovereignty like your own within you. Each one of us has the potential to create and manifest. Every one of us is a divine being having a wonderfully physical experience. And if you're not enjoying it, I get it. But we're here to help you be free and enjoy it. That even when you break your elbow, fall down and go boom, and you're a body worker and all you want to do is touch people and love on them, that you have to learn that that was the best and for my highest and best good. And Sasha can probably admit that I have calmed down quite a bit. I am still the passionate, but I talk slower because I realized that my message was through this. It calmed me down in a way that nothing has settled me. There have been so many beautiful, beautiful things that I have gleaned from breaking my elbow. And within an hour, I knew it was for my highest and best good. And it has been 10 weeks now. And yesterday, just to give everybody, like, I've been through a lot, and they told me surgery for the elbow. I said no. They said straight cast, hard cast. I said no. Give me a soft cast for 2 weeks. Then I did a couple x-rays, and then he agreed to do a brace for a couple weeks. And I just had the x-ray yesterday on April Fool's Day to what's going on. And he was literally like, it looks like you've had surgery. Everything's great. You can start the next section, which is really, you just got to rehab it now, and you got to start to bend it more. And I've done a lot. I was working with Deanna specifically through this process, particularly last weekend. I flew to her, and you know what my body did? I was so relieved. I called my husband and I said, I'm so excited. I don't have to get any more x-rays anymore. I'm just going to go to the office and I'm going to go treat myself. And on the way to the office, I felt my body just shut down and wanted to cry. And I turned around, I went home, I drove home, and I said, I need to cancel my whole day. And my body just wants to weep and cry because I have been waiting to get right to where here is, not aware that I was waiting, not aware that I had an expectation, but telling everybody I knew that my body could heal this, hearing that it did it, the relief that I felt, the lack of struggle that I could finally let my body just release and let go. I pretty much laid in bed all day, cried, ate, worked my hand, did my fascia, worked my blocks, and slept. Worked and slept and ate, worked and slept and ate. And literally that was my whole day. Because I have learned there's nothing for me to produce if I'm not in the flow state, if I'm not here in my present. And my presence yesterday was, you've been real fucking tired for 10 weeks. So lay down and let your body express how incredibly tired you are and how much you've been working to overcome this. Even though working means breathing, meditating, laying on PMF mats, relaxing more, all that, it was still effort to relax. I mean, that sounds silly, but it's true. It was like efforting to slow down. And I really think and know that when we can be honest with ourselves about how we feel, we don't hold our burdens. And when we can express how we really feel, even if it's crying, tears of relief, like my husband and my son were like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm great, actually. I just need to cry for like a day.
Yes.
I've been holding stuff in that I wasn't even aware until it let go. I remember when my good friend, Dr. Schaffner, was going through her brain tumor situation. We only had 2 weeks from the time of diagnosis to surgery. And I didn't tense. I didn't feel crying. I was just like, yeah, you're great. You're great. The moment she was released from surgery and everybody said she was okay, I cried for 4 hours. Because we don't realize how much we're holding on, and allowing our bodies to express whatever we're holding on to allows us to actually have the full healing. And you might not be all the way through the process, but when you finally have that first bowel movement by yourself that didn't have to use a castor oil pack or drink fiber or take some magnesium or whatever, when you finally have that physiological response of knowing you're on the right track, of watching your body take over again instead of needing something outside of you, getting the regulation of the body to turn back on, is really what I'm here to teach people, because that's the thing that heals. It's the only thing that heals. There's a couple things that block it from healing. And when we can manage, I don't like that word. When we can play, words are very powerful, and I don't really know. When we can align with our bodies and integrate with our bodies mentally, emotionally. I've been saying for a few weeks, it's about the new AI, align and integrated. When we can align with our bodies and integrate, it's not about every day is great. Every day is pretty great for me. Don't get me wrong. Every day is pretty great. Even when I break my elbow, even when I'm stuck in snowy Pennsylvania instead of in sunny Philadelphia, sunny Philadelphia, sunny Florida, where I was supposed to fly to that day, enjoying the ride and going, okay, this is going to be fun. Where is this going to lead to? Really? I broke my elbow. I mean, actually, I didn't know it for 17 days, but really I fell, I hurt myself, I dislocated my shoulder, that I was confident in. And I got to put all this back together again, because there's nobody else, Simon, that's going to help me. I got to help me. I got to put this back together. And through that journey and with working with Deanna Hansen and the fascia and the lymph at an even deeper level than I was aware of, I'm putting myself back together like Humpty Dumpty from the 50 years of living on this planet, and remembering things and unwinding things that have happened that the body's held on to as a burden that felt still like a cage. And I've been saying, it's a very long intro, but I've been saying for years, I want somebody to do for me what I do for others. I want to get out of my cage. I want to get, because I had felt from like abdomen up, from sternum up, a cage still that my body was in. And I felt a different cage on my ankles and my hips. And there's what exactly I help clients feel and get out of themselves and teach them how to get out. But it does take community. It does take another hand to do it. And I just didn't know anybody as skilled as me, or wasn't desperate enough. I did know somebody, I knew Deanna, but I wasn't as desperate enough. And when I broke my elbow, I got desperate enough. And we know desperation breeds compliance. So then I flew all the way across the world to Winnipeg, Canada, in the middle of freaking winter, in the middle of freaking ice, because that's how God works.
Oh, I see there. Yeah, I'm in Calgary. We got our fair share of that, and we got snow coming in. We have 18
Yeah,
degrees today and snow coming tomorrow the next day.
yeah, that's nuts.
So,
It's
yeah,
bananas.
I get that.
It,
Yeah.
it was in the middle of ice channels, essentially, that I have to heal this broken elbow from ice. Like, it's funny. And it has brought me further into surrendering to love it all. Just surrender to love all of it. And you don't have to understand it right now, but know there's some kind of understanding coming out of it for you.
100%.
Don't be so attached to, I got to understand it today or this week or put timing on it. Just trust that you'll understand it when the time is right.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, start to understand how your body works and start to understand how the universe works. And probably a bad analogy for what we do, but I'm from New York, and so I love pizza. And so what I say is that you can't eat the whole pizza at once. You have to eat a slice at a time. And so let's dive in a little bit to understand the fascia and the lymph. Now you understand that the body has this amazing ability to heal, that without surgery, my bones and my back aligned and are increasing in size. And I've gained an inch out of the 2.5 inches that I lost in height. That at 50 years old, even with an elbow that was broken 10 weeks ago and not having full range of motion yet, I can honestly 100% assuredly tell you, I feel better in my physical body, emotionally, spiritually, physically, in every possible way that I ever have in my entire life.
Wow.
And I know I'm going to be walking on my hands in my 50s and showing what real strength and how this body really works is about, because I've seen it on my x-rays in the last 10 weeks. I said to the orthopedic surgeon yesterday, I go, is it just me or does the quality of my bone look better than it did when we started? He goes, it does. I'm like, my long bone looks better in quality because I've learned even more. And that's what I want to teach us. So
All right.
that's the story of Kelly Kennedy.
That's amazing. And that is amazing. And that reframe is so important. People need to reframe. It's happening for you. And you don't have to understand it now. And you don't have to force that understanding. It will be revealed. Really, that's what I see when you really take that time for introspection and see. It's like, oh, okay, that's why that happened. It makes so much sense. And you're only richer for it in the end, right?
Yes, it becomes the trust, because there's a delay in understanding, which is so difficult for humans because we get so like, why did this happen to this? And 1 = 1 and 1 causes 1. And it's like, well,
it's not so linear, right? It's not so linear. And that's
no, it's multi-causational. You're a multi-dimensional being, and life is multi-causational. Many things are happening at once, and many of the things we're not even consciously aware of or sensing aware of unless we deeply develop higher senses. A lot of people have developed their sixth sense or their heart sense, or I would say the gut sense, in that there's a thinker, a feeler, and a knower, and that our job is to align all those. So yes, how can I help them understand the intricacies of that?
Right. Amazing. Okay. We've got just over half an hour. So gotta go. Okay. So lymph, Kelly, let's talk lymph. Why is it so important? I've been talking about lymph for a long time, but I'm really learning more of the intricacies now. And I work at a shop a couple days a week at a herbal shop, and we're dealing with a lot of people. And I'm always talking about the lymph to people. And this guy brings in his little daughter who's like oozing out of all her orifices in her head. I'm like, well, can I just feel her neck? And she's got a massive lump here. I'm like, well, she's so backed up. It's got to go somewhere eventually. Like there's so many people that are they're puffy and they're stuck. And what is the lymphatic system? What is its major uses or roles in the body? And I also want to understand the circuitry, like how it interrelates with the other organs, the kidney. Like, how do we know it's not a kidney issue and it's a lymphatic issue if you're puffy? How do we know that? And how does it relate with liver, gallbladder, heart? Like, okay, that's a lot of questions all in one. So go.
No, it's a great question actually. And again, a reframe. If everybody would take a breath in through your nose and exhale out. Everything you've ever been taught is wrong. There you go. So we are so focused on the cells and the organs. Bruce Lipton, in one of the greatest books I've ever read, Biology of Belief, started talking about this in the 70s. 50 years ago, this started to be discussed in modern medicine, that there's something signaling the cell. And we knew that before because I've studied with the greats. I stand on the shoulders of greats like Wilhelm Reich and Professor Enderling, that in the 50s, they started to see that there was this different space that was identified through a microscope when you took a specific type of condenser instead of using a lot of light, and you limit the light and use oil to magnify the spaces between the cells. And they found an entire environment in which the cells live in. We know it as plasma, extracellular matrix, the spaces around the cells. Everybody's got a different name for it. What Dr. Bruce Lipton discovered when he was a cell biologist was, hey, there's something signaling the cell. I must look at what's signaling the cell because the cell's only functioning as it's signaled.
Right.
Now we can talk about, as many greats do, the illness in the cell, and you got to get the cell to function better because without that, it won't heal. I don't disagree with that. And what I would say again is that the cells are being signaled and that the trash inside the cell can't be taken out because the space around it is so clogged. So when you can drain out into the space, which is this lymphatic space, we have 3 times more lymphatic fluid than we do blood. And so I don't look at the function of the organs. I don't look at the function and the physiology of the cell. While I appreciate the mitochondria and the ATP and all of the function of the cell, I look at what I can, as a human, can change is the terrain. I can change the environment in which those cells are bathing. I can change the signaling by clearing up the debris that's causing a missed signal. And that debris is the crap that's stuck in the lymph. Because what is the lymph? Well, it's part of our circulatory system. It actually dumps into the cardiovascular. So this fluid that's throughout the cells has to be collected through these vessels. These vessels are the lymph vessels. Then they dump into lymph nodes. We have lymph nodes between 600 and 1,000 throughout our whole body. I was with somebody the other day, actually my family members, and one of my nieces had a couple lymph nodes removed, and my other niece said, this was classic. My other niece goes, well, I mean, what do you do without those lymph nodes? And the one that's had them removed, she goes, well, I have a lot of them. And I looked at her and I go, between 600 and 1,000 per person. Each person has between 6. And she goes, oh, I didn't know that. And I go, here's my podcast, sweetie. Like, you're never a prophet in your own town. And I love my nieces, and they do listen to my podcast every once in a while. And I'm just saying that you're never a prophet in your own town. So it's just funny, right? But no, like this, right? We have lymph vessels, then we have lymph nodes. There's a reason I have cherry blossoms here. So we have lymph vessels and lymph nodes, and these vessels don't have a pump like our cardiovascular system is known to have a pump. It moves when we move. And a lot of people move in the same way every day. Oh, I'm lifting, I'm pumping iron, and I do these 12 yoga poses, and I do the same 12 yoga poses every day. Or I used to be a proponent of that. I'm not a proponent of that anymore. You got to move differently and often, because when you move and you move differently, you're causing different pumping of different areas for them to be flushed out, because as they move through the vesicles, they get to these lymph nodes. And when they get to the lymph node, that's when the immune system, which I would conjecture is your whole body, but the lymph system and your fascia together make up about 80% of the terrain of the physical component of your body is fascia and lymph.
80%.
Like the terrain, like the small intestines are part of the lymph, and they're bigger than a football field. If you were to, like, the lymph vessels are in the nerve cells. The lymph vessels are everywhere throughout the body. Then the fascia is the connective tissue that holds it all together. The bones are floating inside of it, and some organs are attached into that, functioning it through the brain and the brain stem, which is the central and peripheral. What I'm saying is we got it wrong. Stop paying attention to the organs, the central and the peripheral. Not that they're not important, but I don't need to be a physiology specialist because I got the best doctor on the planet inside my body. I just need to allow it to do its job by cleaning up the filter, which is the lymphatic system. It's not just going to filter out and identify at those nodes what are the pathogens, what are the invaders in the body, which is what it does. Then it sends out the proper white blood cell. However, it's also going to circulate gases and nutrients. So it's going to, help with the fluid retention, stabilize, maintain, that's the word I'm looking for, maintain the proper fluid throughout the whole body. That's one of the jobs of the lymphatics. At the level of the nodes, when it's identifying the the invader for the proper immune response, where those white blood cells come from. While white blood cells are fighter cells, they're matured in the thymus gland, the T cells, and the bone marrow, the B cells. Those are both lymph organs. The tonsils are the gatekeepers to the lymph system. The spleen is the largest of the lymphatic organs, which purifies the blood and helps create white blood cells. The small intestines are also where we create white blood cells and where we start digestion in the small intestines. And the appendix is also part of our lymphatic system. So we have glands, we have nodes, we have vesicles. We have 3 times more of this fluid than blood. It's where the body identifies the invader at the lymph nodes. Everybody has to move in order for this lymph system to move. And you cannot live for 1 second without a lymph system. It's the filter of the body. Yet, how do we not know anything about it?
Right.
Well, it's hard to study. That's one of the reasons, because it's always moving. And then it's in this shape-shifting fascia network of fascia, of frequency fabric, that's this pulley lever system that moves and is the shock absorber and is made of collagen fiber that's translucent and moves and gets thicker when we need it to be more stable. Like when I broke my elbow, it swelled up. It brought a lot of the platelets and a lot of the blood flow to that area to help heal it. That's part of the job of the lymph system. Then the fascia created like a cast. It started to get really hard even before I put a cast on it. Like the tissue, the outside of this tissue got really hard. It created a cast. As I'm healing, I'm having to break up that cast. It is not very fun. I will tell you that. It has been painful and I've had to breathe, but wow, what happens is the freedom. All of a sudden the hand starts to move, the arm starts to move, and I'm like, oh, instead of just forcing it, I allow it by softening it, because that fascia starts to soften when it stops feeling like it needs to be in protection mode. Has to be vulnerable, has to be safe in vulnerability, and then it softens, and then it starts to open up, and it reorganizes, and it creates proper structure and opens up the flow where there's adhesions from being stuck. And it doesn't have to just be on scars. It doesn't have to be on just repetitive movements.
All over
It can.
my legs. They're all
I
everything.
overthink, and I can have fascia adhesions from overthinking in my scalp.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a lot of fear in my body. I can have fascia adhesions over my kidneys because I'm always fearful. And so I'm tightening. My body is in compression, in contraction, even though I don't necessarily am conscious of it. But as I become deeply aware in my breath, of my breath in my body, it not deeply active breathing, not just deeply conscious, passive breath. Watching the breath, where it goes in the body, watching as the witness, where does the body hold the tension, the tightness, the guarding, the bracing, allowing the body to feel it, exhale it out. Focus on the exhale, let the inhale take care of itself. And this process of getting into that flow state and getting the fascia to open, getting the lymph to to flow, getting the oxygen to travel everywhere in the body because pathogens cannot live in an oxygenated state. Then the water can structure, holding the geometric patterning, and then being able to resonate with nature because all of nature is in geometric patterns. Nature heals. It connects to our geometric patterns, creates resonance. That resonance then creates coherence. That coherence increases our frequency, and this is how we heal. This is not how, that's how energy works. This is not something I'm whispering in your ear like, oh, you know, this is a magic trick. This is how math and science and God works, through breath, through trust,
Trust
through...
is huge. That's a big one that people are missing. And it's a relationship, right? It's a relationship with the field of creation, the relationship with this body. And what's most important in a relationship? It's trust. And people don't trust because they're looking outside of themselves all the time. They're getting all these different messages, and then they start double, thinking things and questioning, and they don't trust. So that's a huge word, I think.
Thank you. And it is. And, when I was 20, I was told, you have 2 compression fractures, you have a scar on your head, you were lacerated, you'll never be able to hold a pregnancy because you won't be able to hold the pressure. You'll, one day, probably in your 30s, have to have herringbone surgery and go manage your pain because we absolutely are telling you you're going to be in pain for the rest of your life. Fast forward 5 years, I'm out of pain, I'm playing basketball. I break my leg. I didn't think anything about it. I just went to the hospital, got a cast on, started taking my minerals. I was out of my cast in 5 weeks versus 6. The doctor was kind of like, I don't really know how. Well, I was doing a lot of minerals at the time. Way before ionic minerals, way before anybody really knew what the hell that was. And a lot of Chinese herbs for the skeletal system and for the soft tissue as well. Way before a lot of people. And I was drinking very pure water, and I didn't use any chemicals on my body way before anybody else was doing this, right? So I healed faster. I was not in as big of a soup either. Like I would say 30 years ago when I broke, well, shit, that was 30 years ago. Is that true? No, it was about 25 years ago when I was like 26 or so when I broke my leg. Then 10 years ago, I broke my arm, my radius, again, doing a stupid obstacle course. And that healed fast. I got out of the cast. They did the cast wrong twice. I had to get 2 casts on. They put it on too tight. I got out of it, and I had full range of motion in like 2 days.
Wow.
And then I just went about my life. Break my elbow. I'm at Deanna's, and she goes, the reason your elbow broke is because you never actually healed all the fascia in that left. It was all my left side, by the way, on my left wrist. And that's what was my elbow, because the wrist, even though I didn't brace with my wrist, my body put the elbow down versus my wrist. If I had put my wrist, I probably would have hit my head because my wrist wouldn't have been able to sustain the pressure of the fall. And I know I was guarding, trying to protect my head. It happened so freaking fast. My feet came up, and I watched my body, and I was like, why are you putting your elbow down? That's not going to be good. And then all the jamming up. But, I trusted, like, when in an hour, my husband's handing me ice, and I get it. He's a combat ranger medic. I was trained in athletics. Like, ice is but fascia, we know no ice.
Right.
Warmth. And so I started to take a shower, and I just started to trust the body, even to the point, probably, 17 days later is when I got an x-ray to go, oh shit, I broke it.
Uh-huh.
I trusted maybe a little too much because I was like, oh, my body's got this. And then I was like, maybe I should x-ray it. But then it was like surgeries and plates and drilled things in your radius. And I was like, oh, that sounds horrible. No, we're not doing that. And that was 8 weeks ago. And now yesterday he said, no, you did it. You're healing. Now it's just going to take a few months for this to fill in and increase your range of motion, and you're good to go. And it takes a lot of trust, and it takes a lot of effort and in that trust. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of pressure
Take that
outside of
for
people
sure.
telling me, why didn't you do this? And it would just be easier. Well, would it? I mean, I still have he still said it'd be 4 to 6 months after surgery that so either way, it's going to take time. Either
Right.
way, I have to rehab either way. But now I don't have foreign material in my body. I have a very much deeper relationship with my body than I had before. And I know the fascia better than ever. And I trust this body, and I know I'm going to be stronger and have a better body now in my
Right.
50s physically than I've ever had in my life. And that's that's what we all need to have, is this trust that no matter what is happening, that it is showing up for us, that when those lymph nodes are swollen, it's your body saying, hey, I'm dealing with something. That when you have puffs instead of pits in your arms, that your body's up against something. And I don't care if you're 10 years old and you got arm puffs. I see them on my kids' friends. It means that the body is tired and is filled. The filter needs to be changed.
Yes.
And in the world we live in, everybody needs to change their filters. We don't get out without having to do this right now. Our food sucks, so we got to brush our teeth. I don't think the deer are out there brushing their teeth, and they don't probably have teeth falling out. They still live in the same environment, but their food is totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in Bucks County, so we're full of deer here. So, deer is what comes up present for me. But, or rabbits. We have a lot of rabbits and a lot of squirrels. And, I don't see them like running to the dentist and having colonoscopies. You know what I'm saying? And they're not like, oh, the deer are dying younger, but humans are
100%.
sicker and younger.
So sick. So sick.
Because we are not paying attention to our food and our water and our breath and the body that we've been given. And we just think we walk into a doctor or a nurse practitioner or a functional doctor, and they put us through some detox protocol, and we put these supplements in our body, and that's what's going to heal our body. And I'm here to say, no, it's not. You got it wrong. Those are to supplement what you should take over and allow your body to take over. If you need a supplement 5 years later, it is a dependent, not a supplement. And outside of lymph and needing minerals, humic and fulvic acid minerals and oceanic minerals, your body needs, which I would contend, in all honesty, and I've had this conversation with a couple people, I do think we need minerals because we have depleted our soils based upon the fact we need food. Do we need food? I'm not sure. I mean, do I eat food? Yes, I love food. Don't get me wrong. Please don't take food away from me. I think that's part of living this physical body, is enjoying food.
Yeah.
Do we need it as much as we've been told and we've thought?
No,
I'm here to
I don't
say,
think so either. No.
I think we get a lot more nutrition from oxygen, breathing in the parasympathetic, letting the water hold that frequency, and letting the energy of light and sound travel throughout the body. I've watched my electrical system quantitatively through heart rate variability for 20 years. I've watched it change so much in the last 10 months, or 10 weeks rather, since I've been dealing with this and watching my electrical body change. And yet I have not changed the minerals I take. I have not changed anything else I'm doing, except my electrical panel has shifted. And as I'm healing, it's shifting and my frequency's changing. So it leads me to understand even differently how more, not differently, because it's been always, it gave me an opportunity to prove what I always knew to be true.
Right. Fair. Okay. Fair. So let's talk about lymph and getting lymphatic moving. So we've got things like dry brushing and gua sha tools and the rebounders and vibration platform machines. And we got the Flow Presso and the Flow Vibe. I got to get myself one of those Flow Vibes. That is one thing that's super, super handy. Do you have one there? Yes, you can show that. We've got like creams. I use something called Lymph Tonic by a company St. Francis. That is an awesome tincture. It works like a damn. If anybody wants something internally to help move their lymph diral, like there's like what are you finding? Because for me, for example, I used to dry brush all the time. It didn't really do anything. And now now that I've started working with the fascia on my legs, I understand why. And my legs change all the time. In the morning, they're smooth and thinner, and in the evening, they tend to swell. And I'm still working on that. But what are you finding are the best tools? Does a rebounder really work really, really well? Is it the Flow Presso, which not everybody has access to? or what are your, and then there's also, of course, the manual
Yeah.
opening.
So number one is you got to make sure you don't have a blockade to healing. Dentistry is one, which everybody's talked about, but scars is the second one. And everybody has a scar because we all have this belly button. Can't get in life without a scar. But being able to treat your scars both topically and well, the adhesions is key to keeping that fascia open so that it doesn't become the dams to the lymphatic system, which is what you're
Right.
experiencing,
Yeah.
Sasha. And what I would say is that when a lot of people teach lymph, they're talking about the surface lymph. They're talking about the fluid of lymph, not the lymph nodes, which are like the doors that are indicating what actually is mobilized out, because the lymph nodes, the termini, which are in your neck, drain out to the cardiovascular system. So when I teach lymph, which there's free videos on my website, both for dry brushing and manual pumping, to get people started in getting that termini and like the 10 main points, really driving it home that these are what you need to focus on. Forget about the dry brushing for a moment. Get these deep nodes open. Then go to dry brushing, because then you'll move the fluid. But before you do all that, get your scars treated. And then as you move your lymph, go back to your scars about once a week, and then move your lymph twice a day, and then go to your scars once a week, move your lymph twice a day, go to your scars once a week. Then do a full body lymph a couple times a week, where in my masterclass for the Flow Vibe, which is a biosonic. So we have a lot of teaching of the lymphatics with manual pumping. It's sometimes challenging for people, they want to cheat. So we created well, I didn't, but Medela Health created the Flow Vibe, which is a biosonic vibrator with 3 different modes on it to help facilitate that. It can also help you treat your scars. So in my master class for that, which you can add on when you purchase it for $29, I teach you how to not just drain your face, which it comes with how to drain the face, which is great anti-aging. But what we want to do is drain the body. 75% of the body drains on the left thoracic and 25% drains on the right. Why? Because about 50% drains at your cisterna in the middle of your abdomen. So if you are not draining your breast and your inguinals and your liver and your spleen and your gut, and then draining 75% of your body, your head will not drain out. And everybody wants their head to drain. Why? Because they want the central and the peripheral to work well. They want their anti-aging. Well, I turned 50. I dare anybody to go up against me and say that my heart rate better is better than Kelly's. Okay. And I've anti-aged better than Kelly. Okay. I'm here to play, because this is fun. And I hope you're having fun too, because I'm on a science experiment called life. And I want to see how much quality of life can I live? How free can I be? And how much can my free will be what is in charge, instead of all my old patterns that no longer support me, that I know, and live a relatively clean life. We had Easter. I ate crap. I ate candy. I loved it. I ate with my son. Maybe different crap than perhaps what was fine in your house. But I mean, for me, sugar is sugar, even if it's organic sugar. But it's okay once in a while. Hormesis, it's okay. I don't want to, it's like, that's part of life. He did an Easter egg hunt. We had a lot of fun and it was great. So, but now we're focusing on the lymph a little bit more over the last few days, because we know we've taxed the system out a little bit more. So instead of twice a day, we maybe are going to do 3 times a day of lymph fluid. If I'm chronically ill, I'm probably going to do full lymph body, not once a week, once a day. If I'm dealing with chronic pain, I'm going to go a little bit more. How do I increase my frequency? Increase the frequency of which I'm doing my frequency work, which is fascia and lymph. Then the scars have to be treated, and not just, again, topically, but deeply. And so we go cross fiber. Again, in my masterclass, they teach that, but I also have its own masterclass on scars, because scars are way more than just physical scars, but I'm talking about the physical scars on the body. When you start working your fascia, and Sasha, correct me where I'm wrong, is it not amazing the emotions that are stored in the fascia? And the scarification is the tightening of the fascia. Sometimes it tightens so bad it creates an adhesion. Sometimes there's a trauma that creates a scar, whether that's an accident, a dog bite, a poke with a fence I fell over, whatever it is. that caused me to break my fascia. Now there's trauma, but we all have trauma. It's called life. It's chaotic. And our job is to create harmony. The more we're in the flow state, the more our heart rate variability is variable, meaning that no matter what is happening, we're in the parasympathetic and our body's healing, the body's recovering, the body is always letting go of that doesn't serve us and bringing in that does. The body is going to continue to regulate and regenerate and heal. I believe, feel, and think and know until we decide we don't want to do it anymore.
Right. Right.
And then we leave this physical experience, but we are not a victim.
No.
And we are not a martyr. And it's time for us to wake up out of that fog and realize that, we don't control life. We control our responses to life. We control our ability to process that. And I could have come to work yesterday. I could have created videos. I could have had my 5 meetings and had a podcast. I could have forced my way through it. I could have done it. I could have mustered it up. I'm a good Irish physically, in my physical body. I'm an Irish Catholic girl that knows how to raise on farms as a rower, collegiate athlete that knows how to muster it up and work through it. And as a 50-year-old divine sovereign being, I have learned to listen to her and what she wants, because she's going to get what she wants anyway. And she needed to heal yesterday, and she needed to feel relief, and she needed to just be soft and warm and cozy. And it was a crazy, rainy, gross day here in Pennsylvania. And I enjoyed every second of it, and ate warm soups and drank warm teas and cuddled with my boy and my dog and my husband, and just allowed my body to cry and feel, and got up this morning and feel better. Do I feel 100%? No. Am I okay with that? Yep. Did I show up for my clients that are on my schedule? Absolutely. Because I'm not going to cancel all my clients. I know I can give it to them, but I also know tonight I'm going to do a little bit more care, because I hadn't cared for my body in about 2 days. I really hadn't. I was going through it and was tired of caring for it. We all get there. I was tired of doing 3 to 4 hours worth of work a day. It'd been 10 weeks. I was tired and I didn't do it, and it caught up with me, and that's okay too. It's just all okay. It's all good. And I want you to feel that in your body. And if not, then start to work with that lymph. Breathe first, breathe with her.
Manually, do you think is the best thing, like for somebody who wants to know how to move their lymph now today, what would you just say, the manual, like getting in the main node? So Kelly does have videos. She has videos on how you can, where you start, how you go, with the order that you go in, because it's important. And you gotta let the first cars to leave the red light for the rest of the cars to go, right? So you got to get that end point. And so
if you're starting dry brushing at your feet, please stop right now.
And everybody teaches that way.
You're pushing it. It's like, for me, there's so many analogies, but like you're dusting your house without your windows open. Like you got to open your windows first, and opening your windows is getting the neck, the termini, and then the neck open, then the chest open, then the abdomen open. Now your windows are open. Now you can move your foot. Like if your swelling's in your foot, your itches in your foot, your complaints in your foot, you got to open up the neck first. If your complaints in your head, you got to open up the neck and the whole body before the head. If you have migraine headaches, if you have menstrual issues, I mean, really what I want to get people to understand is a reframe is lymph should be your first thing that you look at. No matter what the symptom is, it's the body's inability to filter something out and to compensate or regulate and take that chaos and make it into harmony. Right. So I don't need to know specifically, oh, well, I need this liver enzyme so it can go into phase 2 detox, because that's where mercury is bound with bile and B12 so that I can get it out. And so then the L-glutamine in my gut can mobilize it. And those are all good things to know. Don't get me wrong. I'm not making fun of people that know that shit, because that's important too. But I, as a human being, for sovereignty in my own home, as my own practitioner, what I need to know more of than anything is lymph and fascia, because I have control over it. And I can pump it, and I can mobilize it, and then I can watch my body all of a sudden process that all that bad sugar
Fundamental.
better, and
Yeah.
all that bad food better, and all those emotional stressors better, and all those things. And I need to know less of the physiology because I drain out the toxin burden, allowing the signals and the organs to behave better because the signaling is better because there's less debris in the fluid.
Yes. It's just fundamental. It's just fundamental for so many things. And then you hear people like I feel like it's like their lymphatic system is doing its job and they've got all this stuff and then they cut it all out. And I'm like, I don't know. Well, that is the topic for another
Yeah.
time. I really have to have you on here because literally, Kelly, I've got like
You
questions.
didn't get any questions.
Like
Well, hammer me with another question. Go. We got 5 minutes. Go.
Well, okay, wait. Now I have to pick one of the best ones. Well, okay. So what if, okay, some New Zealand. So I was talking to a woman yesterday and she's got all this stuff going on here that she has not confirmed as cancer. So we got her some basic stuff, but I'm like, before all this, like this is swollen and hot and red because it's stuck. It's stagnant, right? So I feel like we think we know better than the organ itself that's doing its job. So say we've got stuff in our lymph nodes. Do we move our lymph? Say we've got cancer in the lymph nodes. Do we cut them out or do we move it out? And do we let the body do the healing? What?
Okay, this is a great way to end, and I appreciate this question so much because this is exactly the point of the problem in this world. If I go to Europe, where I was trained, and I got diagnosed with cancer, the first thing they're going to do is tell me to move my lymph. In this country,
cancer, any kind?
Any cancer.
Okay.
In the United States and Canada, when we are told that we are diagnosed with cancer, the last thing they want you to do is move your lymphatic system. And we live in a litigious society or in socialized medicine as you do. And the freedom of which we spoke about, of which your podcast is named, is missing ingredient here. In Europe, they also have a lot of socialized medicine, but they have understood the body in a different way for a long time, particularly the German parts of the speaking German parts of Europe, where they've studied this terrain medicine. And terrain is, if the body has a hot, pustulous thing, right? It's an active infection of some kind. And I am thinking it might be cancer. Kelly Kennedy herself trusts the body 100%. And so the best form of action for Kelly Kennedy is to follow what Kelly Kennedy's heart and authority tells her to do.
Right.
Would I ask another client to go 17 days without getting an x-ray? Abso-fucking-lutely not.
Right. Okay.
Right? I have 2 clients right now that are dealing with active cancer. One who absolutely is opposed to doing any kind of Western medicine. The other one who's willing to do a little bit of both. I waited for this woman to get fully, it only took 2 weeks for her to get fully like pressured, let's just say, by her family to get to the point she's like, I feel like I want to do a little allopathic medicine too. And I said, good. Bottom line is you need to be, you weren't absolutely committed to the alternative, or what I call holistic. She wasn't committed 100% of that because of the pressure from the family. And the cancer doesn't happen to just one person in the family. It happens to everybody in the family. And everybody has to be in congruency and coherence to move forward for there to be the outcome that everybody wants. And if you're not willing to have those tough conversations, you're not willing to face what you're rigid to, then you will succumb to the lesson. Because that is the point of life, is no rigidity. Like, there was a part of me that I said to the doc, like, if I have to get surgery down the road, I will, but let's give it a couple months. And yesterday was his day, April Fool's Day, of saying, you don't need surgery. You did it. And my body felt the relief. Yeah. But there was a part of me in the back was like, hey, if you can't do this without surgery, that's okay to need surgery too. It's okay. And without judgment. And the best decision we can, but to not jump is the point. So if I have something red and hot and burning in a rash, well, first I'm going to get it checked out and know what the hell I'm looking at. Because if I've never touched my body before and all of a sudden I start pump, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't know what I'm feeling. I'm not aware of my body, and I don't know how to help my body once it starts feeling other things. Because when you start moving the lymph, you're going to start to feel lots of things. You might feel diarrhea. You might feel, as you said, excretion. Excretion is good. Excretion is the body getting rid of shit. In our world, in our allopathic medicine, they go, oh, secretion, stop. Suppress it. I don't want to hear your nose.
Right,
I don't want to
exactly.
see your eyes. And no, it's like, let the eyes cry. Let the nose have shit come out of it, because it's the body trying to get rid of stuff. So when you look at biological division, you start to understand it. But when you have something that you don't understand, that's when we look to guidance. Then you and your guidance work together to find the best solution for you in this individual world right now with where you find yourself. Sometimes it's doing allopathic with, I can tell you for the best outcomes, you combine both. Did I, Kelly Kenny, sit home and go, I'm going to figure this all out by myself and I need nobody, not even their dumb x-rays? No, of course not. I said, well, I need their x-rays and I need them every so often to make sure that what I feel in my body is actually true. Plus, it helps everybody else to understand it if they see it, to believe it, right? So you can use these, but how do you use them? Well, you find a quarterback that knows how you want to play and goes, okay, do you want to dance a little here and a dance a little here? Because there's no one person that's ever dealt with it like you are. No one person's ever going to live your life like you. And I don't care if that's expressing illness or expressing your greatest gift of the world. I feel like my gift is helping people find their hearts, and I want to help you find your heart. What is your gift to give the world? Is it, do you cook better than anybody else? Do you clean a house better than anybody else? Are you the best plumber on the planet? Are you the best neurosurgeon on the planet? Do you take tolls in a happier way than anybody else so that everybody going through the tolls smiles and that changes everybody's life? I don't care who you are. I know who you are. You're a sovereign being that's having a physical experience, and you forgot.
Yeah.
You're a divine being.
Yes.
And take a breath, learn how you're supposed to be housed in this body, how this body works, pump the lymph. And if there's something you don't know what it is, then work with a guided professional to help you uncover that and put all the pieces together. And don't worry about understanding it right now. No, in hindsight, it'll make all the sense in the world, as Sasha said. All the pieces of the puzzle will come together and you'll be like, oh my God, look at my masterpiece called my life. Yes, it is. It's a masterpiece.
Okay, Kelly, that's awesome. How do people get a hold of you? How do they find out more about you?
So thetruewellnesscenter.com is our website for our full website. And then Instagram is True Wellness Global. And the podcast is Flow, FLOWE, wherever they listen to podcasts. And they can always email us. We do read all of our comments. We have a very intimate, small, beautiful team of divine beings that are been with me, most of them for 5 or 10 years or more. And we really do read all your comments and we really do answer your emails. And if I hear most of them. I don't actually type them these days, but my team types them and we're here for you. We want to help you.
Thank you. Thank you. I do want to continue this conversation in the future one day, but thank you so much today. You're an inspiration. You've lived it, you've done it, and you're helping so many people. So thank you, Kelly, for your time today. I really, really appreciate you.
Thank you, Sasha.